Hello and welcome back. I am DarcyBits, and today we are continuing Lords of the Rime, Soldiers of Kor, and Dragons, and we have the final installment, all of our multicolor and colorless cards, starting with Grixis Caravan, the 5-color, 5-cost, 6/6 enchantment creature dragon. Whenever a dragon you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, that player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Is that good enough for a 5 different color creature? I don't know, but it is actually a very cool look at just, okay, it's 5 colors, it's above vanilla, but it's 5 colors, so like that's, you know, the math gets all weird when that gets involved. 6/6, it's a dragon, and it cares about dragons, which is super cool. I don't know if there's actually enough dragons in this dragon theme set, unfortunately, but still, that's really cool. And I should say, because I went right into this, like, there was no intro, it might have looked like I've seen this card before. I haven't. I'd seen the name, I knew it was a 5-color card, but, like, I've actually, that's really cool. That's the first time I saw that it's a thing that cares about dragons. That's really interesting. I don't know if this is strong enough, but honestly, I think that's a flavor win, and if you can get it right on the first go, no reason to push your luck. The steel shatters the ivory. So, if you are just joining us for the first time, hello, I am DarcyBits. We have been making, using Urza's AI, a block of cards. First we started with Gods of Winter, and now we are making Lords of the Rime, Soldiers of Kor, and Dragons. These sets are being based off of Theros block in mana costs and card types. The actual subtypes, however, are not. They are generated by the AI. So, really cool to see a dragon here. Was not guaranteed. If you'd like to see more of the set, please look at our previous videos. There is now a playlist for Gods of Winter on YouTube. And also, all of the Gods of Winter cards, as of recording this, are available. You can download them and use them in Tabletop Simulator. If you need them in any other format, I'd be interested to talk with you about it and maybe set something up. But that is what is available currently, because it's the easiest thing and to get to the most amount of people. All right. With that said, let's move on to our next card. Tali Primal Dawn is a 4-mana, blue and white, 2/2 legendary enchantment creature god. It has flying, and for a generic and a white, exile target creature with flying. Wow, that is powerful. That is a lot. 4 mana to make a 2/2 flyer, then from then on repeatably, or the same turn even, right? If you have 6 mana, you can just zap something. But it only hits flyers. That's a legitimate restriction. I don't know if I want to reroll this. There's a part of me that really wants to reroll this because, as you may have noticed already, there is a typo. When I first made the JSON, I didn't realize that it said legendary enchantment as opposed to legendary enchantment. That has since been fixed, but all these cards were rolled before that fix. So if I roll this now, it'll add the space, which is super minor, does not actually matter, but oh, I want to reroll it because of that. Otherwise, this card's rad. This card's just like actually really strong. It only hits flyers, which I think is I don't know if that's enough of a downside, but there's also, like, the flyers are some of the scariest cards in the set. So the idea that there's something that counters them, which is other flyers, or, like abilities, I think flying hate is a totally legitimate thing to put in the set, because they are scary. Flyers are so scary, and if you don't go flyers, cool, you're fine, right? There's very little that hits. I think there is something that hits non-flyers only, so, maybe, whatever. I don't think this is too much, to be entirely honest. It's a small body, it's not that hard to deal with, it is a flyer, but it's a legendary god, come on! How often do our gods get to actually feel like legendary gods? In battle, my lifeblood is torn asunder, and yet I find new strength in the flood. Tali, Primal Dawn. So, if anyone doesn't know, magic-wise, a Tali is like a dinosaur, maybe? I don't know my real magic, but that name's just lifted, is what I'm trying to say. Jeskai Conclave. Also, the Grixis Caravan. Throw aside your preconceptions of what Grixis means, please. Likewise, throw aside your preconceptions of what Jeskai means. Jeskai Conclave is a 3-mana white and blue enchantment. For white, sacrifice a creature and draw a card. That's cool. I like that, actually. That's really clean. For blue, the next time a sorcery of your choice would deal damage to you this turn, prevent the damage. Okay, that's a bit much, maybe. Because it's not like the next time a sorcery would deal, like, 1 damage to you, prevent 1 damage of it, right? Like, it is. It's just a flat-out... Yeah, I don't think I can allow that. I like the first effect. The first effect's actually really clean. It's just like, yep, spend 3 mana overhead, and then you can start, you know, just sacrificing creatures for cards. That's nice. But a single blue mana to just never take damage again? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't... No. No. Let's try it again. Jeskai, now listen. I don't know what that means, but yeah. Farsighted Scrying is a 3-mana white and blue enchantment aura. Enchant land. When Farsighted Scrying enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a land card from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Dang it, I was really hoping that was going somewhere interesting. I like the concept, right? I've mentioned this before. The idea of enchantment auras that don't affect the enchanted creature are fascinating to me, right? They're the cleanest way of doing a, like... You know how there used to be cards that were, like, legendary sorceries, and the shtick was you could only cast them if you controlled a legendary creature? You could just make enchantments that were like, enchant legendary creature. That would be so clean! Like, can you imagine a set that was the core theme of it? Was just like, there are these legendary spellcasters that are, like doing magic rituals, and you had to, like, they're the one casting the Farsighted Scrying, and it's like a super powered version of a scry effect. In this case, it is not. It is 4 cards for a single land. Like, this is not good, but... Oh well. Even before Taran Zan built the Auriok Maze, some people knew it was sacred ground. Let's try that again. Preordained. That's a real card. That is 100%. I don't know what it does, because I don't know Magic well enough, but that is... Yeah. 3 mana, that's 3 mana white and blue, is a... That's... You already know the card. The mana cost hasn't changed. It's an enchantment. For 2 generic, a white and a blue, return target creature to its owner's hand. There's also a cycling of 2 mana and blue. When you cycle Preordained, draw a card. Okay, so, like, what is this? This is 3 mana as an enchantment, do nothing, spend an additional 4 mana to bounce a creature to its hand. But as a repeatable effect, like, that's a very expensive bounce, but the repeatableness maybe pays off. I'm not entirely sure. The cycling as an alternate casting mode is basically turns it into an instant that says 4 mana, draw 2 cards, which is not great, especially if you're in blue. You have better options in blue, but otherwise, not like, that's kind of cool, right? Like, that's the point of cycling. It's just an alternate way of using it if you can't use the first mode, right? I'm not inherently against this, but I do feel like we could see something more interesting. That may be true, but I'd much rather not have it spread that far. Avalana. Yeah, let's give it another go. Honestly, I don't want to spend too much time re-rolling this time, because we want to finish all of the cards tonight. I think we can do it, but we don't want it to go too late. Conjure Equipment. That is a cool name. Do you think it pays off? 3 mana, white and blue enchantment. As Conjure Equipment enters the battlefield, choose an artifact you control or an enchantment you control or have enchanted. That's What? An enchantment you control or have enchanted. I'm going to just ignore that. I don't think that means anything. Its owner sacrifices it and pays life equal to its mana value. No, I'm just going to try. This one... Even if this card was good, I don't think I want to keep this. What? Its owner sacrifices it, which is... I mean, you're the controller. You might not be the owner, but that's irrelevant. In fact, I think the owner can't sacrifice it if you control it and you're not the owner. Because only the controller can sacrifice, so that's... whatever. But then also, they pay life equal to its mana value, which is like... they'd lose life? Okay. And then also just the, like, an artifact you control, an enchantment you control, or have enchanted. Like, what does that mean? The bridges are tall. The enemy fleet is everywhere, and you can never escape your destiny. If I knew I was going to reroll this card so many times, I would have tried to position it better in the frame. Deep Domain is a 3-mana white and blue enchantment aura. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2. Sacrifice a creature. Put a 1/1 counter on enchanted creature. This is actually really cool. That's probably too good. I really like that. Wow. I bet there's some stupid creature in this, like, set already that can, like... I bet it wouldn't be too hard to find a creature in this set that... or, like, create a situation in which a creature can die and come back immediately and just be sacrificed an infinite number of times. So a free sack outlet is very powerful. But also fun. People like those. Like, I don't really mind it. I'm just like, it's scary. That's some scary stuff. At least it's, like, not OTKing. It's just making a huge creature who will probably OTK you. But whatever. No, I like it. I think it's probably too strong, but tell me something new. The borders of deep domain tremble with the distant howls of lost soul. I love it. That's really good. The Lost Souls thing? Heck yeah. Let's get power from everybody dying. In white-blue. Green Wither Berserker is a 3-mana red and green 2/2 elf knight. They have first strike. When Green Wither Berserker enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, target creature gets +3/+0 until end of turn. Huh, is this good enough? I don't know what the going rate for first strike is. A 3-mana 2/2 with first strike seems probably fine to me. Honestly, I don't know, but maybe. Being able to buff something the turn it comes down isn't amazing, but like it's not nothing, right? Like by the time you play this, you will have other bodies on the board, so you just get an extra 3 damage. Like if this just said, you know, deal 3 damage to target opponent, would that be playable? I think that's the real question. And I think it would be. It's not, like, super exciting, but hey. Cool having an elf knight. I'm into it. Her hands always seem to know where they're going, whether it's an errant sword or an errant sun. I don't know what that means. Gnar, Manipulator of Memory, is a 5-mana green and white 3/5 legendary enchantment creature, Spirit. First strike, lifelink. Whenever Gnar, Manipulator of Memory, or another non-token creature you control dies, create a treasure token. Ooh. First strike and lifelink. I think that's probably okay. Like 5 mana for a 3/5 first strike lifelink seems decent. And then you have this really cool upside, actually. All your creatures. Like, this is why sack outlets are so scary, right? Because it's just like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm going to sacrifice this thing. It's going to put a 1/1 counter on me, and it's going to make a treasure. Cool. And then I'm going to just do that again. And then I got a bunch of treasures, and I'll use those to make some more tokens. And yeah. How can you hope to compete with such a team? We are the rulers of history. Ungrim, Renegade. This card's rad. Again, I wish I could, like, re-roll this because I want to fix that typo, but It's good. Yeah, it's good. I'm not gonna push it, you know? We got in one. Why fight against it? John Falk, Hero of Stromgald, is a 4-mana, green and blue, legendary planeswalker, Rohan Soldier. That's not how planeswalkers work. Each other non-token creature you control gets +1/+1. Cool. Limitation of non-token there, but that's interesting. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you gain 1 life. For each creature you control. Oh, that could be very scary. I also really enjoy things that are like, you don't want to just only play creatures or only play non-creatures. You want to have this mix because it's a non-creature spell triggering life gain per creature. It's cool. But also, you can't just have your deck only be like token generators to get your creature count up because only non-tokens get buffed. Like, this is actually a really cool design if it wasn't broken. I'll get to that. I haven't not noticed or anything. You gain 1 life for each artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker you control. So, few things. First of all, the first section of this card is cool. I like the static effects of a buffing, but only non-tokens, and then encouraging you to cast non-creature spells and control creatures for payoff. The last part is like an effect with no trigger, right? If it was like +1, gain 1 life for each artifact, creature, enchantment, land, and planeswalker you control, that actually sounds super busted. That's way too much. Maybe it's a negative or something. But like, cool, fine. As I'm sure you've noticed, there's no loyalty. Planeswalkers are always a little bit fiddly, so that just happens sometimes. We'll just keep going. His shields held until the sun burned down. But yeah, even if this thing had loyalty, I'd still reroll it because of that last ability. So, it's kind of whatever. Akali Kelinar Starcaller. Sorry, I looked ahead at the type line and it cracked me up. Akali's Kelinar Starcaller is a 4-mana green and blue legendary planeswalker. Oh, I didn't catch the planeswalkers when I did the fix. Ah, dang it. I didn't do that. That's fine. Basically, I took all the legendaries that were followed by creature or legendaries followed by enchantment and added spaces, but I didn't think to check for planeswalkers, so here we are. Legendary planeswalker, core level 1, I guess. I guess you normally spell level with an extra L. That is a 1, right? Not a lowercase L or anything? No, we can see the L in planeswalker, yeah. It says level 1. It is a 3 loyalty planeswalker with a +2/+. Oh, there might be a first line of text there. No, that's the cost? Wait, +2/+2 and gain flying and vigilance. Then -3. So it's probably like a +1 or something. Creatures you control get +1, yeah. Then -3 creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Then -6 until end of turn. Creatures you control gain trample and lifelink. And then -8 gain control of all creatures. I mean, that last one's a pretty good ultimate. I am gonna just go fix that and then we'll reroll this card. This part's being cut out. This part's being cut out. Isn't it cool that this part is being cut out? Why did I not add the space? Oh, I didn't hit update. I'm a dummy. I didn't. Cut this out. This part doesn't even get to go in. Cutting all of this. All right, when I click through this, then when I re-roll this, it should fix the typo. But we should read the flavor text first. All of Akali's children grow strong in the core mountains. All that is, except the weakest, the very young. Akali. What? Is Akali talking in the third person? Also, the weakest, the very young. I thought I said very strong. That makes sense. Yeah, sure. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Let's roll this again, see if we can get something that works. Teo the Renegade is a 4-mana legendary planeswalker core. It has a single loyalty ability, +2, until your next turn. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. That's pretty cool. I've said before I do want to see, like, non-legendary planeswalkers whose type maybe is, like, core like this is, right? But these are legendary planeswalkers. Their type has to be their name. That's the format for planeswalkers. When one half of me desires revenge, the other half demands freedom. Okay, we got loyalty. Jace Beleren. Jace Beleren is a 4-mana green and blue legendary planeswalker Amonkhet. They have 4 loyalty. For +1, draw 2 cards and then discard a card. Okay. For -2, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, put it into your hand. Otherwise, put it into your graveyard. You'd rather just +1, like, every time. Unless you... No, yeah, even if you wanted to put it in your graveyard, because you just discard it. His physical form had aged like all flesh. His eyes betrayed his constant quest for wisdom. So we're seeing the image is not loading. Hopefully we don't have any more tech difficulties. Come on. What do we got? Emrakul, God of Avarice, is a 4-mana green and blue legendary planeswalker core. They have 4 loyalty. For +1, put target creature card from an opponent's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. It gains haste until end of turn. We'll get to that. For -2, draw 2 cards, then you gain 2 life. So, other than that first ability being busted strong, this card functions. This card, like, actually comes together to be a functional piece. It's interesting, right? It's like, okay, why is Emrakul God of Avarice also a legendary planeswalker core? How's that work? I don't know. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Ignoring that. I'm gonna ignore that. The -2 ability is pretty cool, you know. Draw 2 cards, then gain 2 life. Yeah. So it's a 4-mana spell that then draws you 2 cards and you gain 2 life. And then next turn you can do it again. Cool. The +1 ability turns this into a 4-mana resurrect a creature only from an opponent. So there is some slight downside in that if your opponent can curate their own graveyard, they can avoid that effect. But, like, all you gotta do is kill something and then use the effect, right? Like, now that I'm thinking about it, though, like, honestly, the fact that... No, it's too strong. It's too strong. It's cool, though, the fact that it's your opponent's graveyard. Because if it... That actually is a restriction. It's way easier to control what's in your graveyard than your opponent's. That's kind of cool. Still too strong, but very... Yeah, that's really cool, actually. Because you can be like, here's my stupid 10-mana 10/10 that I was never going to actually play. It's in my graveyard. I've resurrected it. But you can't make sure your opponent's doing it. I'm not going to convince myself to keep this card. There's too much resurrection to this set. I love it. It's so good. I don't want to... I love resurrection. Every life has value, and every death is deserved. Ana Kuni, Jiraga Shaman. See if we can get more of a green-blue effect. Although the card draw was pretty good. Sarcon Dragon Shark is a 4-mana green and blue legendary planeswalker Sarcon. Well, we did that part. We got the name in both sections. That happened. It starts at 5 loyalty. For +2, Sarcon Dragon Shark deals 3 damage to any target. Okay. For -3, creatures you control gain hexproof until end of turn. It's potentially useful, but not very, just because, you know, you can't activate at instant speed, so it's not really going to affect much. But for -7, Each creature you control with hexproof. That's funny. Okay. The idea that it gives the hexproof and then it could like do that, except for in this case it can't because they're loyalty abilities. Unless you had some effect that lets you activate loyalty abilities more than once a turn. That's kind of cute though. I like the internal like theming of it. That's fun. For -7, each creature you control with hexproof gets +3/+3 and trample until end of turn. This is kind of cool in that, like, that's a win con if you have creatures with hexproof. The problem is, like, hexproof is such a strong ability already that, like, if you made a deck that only had creatures with hexproof, I just wouldn't want to play against that deck anyway. That just sounds miserable. Now, it does mean that any effect you have that gives something hexproof is suddenly a bit more viable. Like, if you had a spell that said, give all creatures hexproof, you'd be like, cool, this is a combo. And that's kind of cool. I don't remember if that exists in the set or not. I don't think so. I think I'm going to keep it. Like, the thing about this is that sometimes you make a Planeswalker, and not every ability is good, but if at least one of them is good, it's like, that's fine. As long as they all function and at least one is good, I think you can justify keeping it. The Ruthless Balance of Magic and Might. Yeah, no. Checks out. I don't remember who Sarcon is. I think they're like a dragon. Like, their arms are made of dragons. They're like a red, maybe red-black. They're not green-blue. Let's move on. Warcaster Ogre, nice. Warcaster Ogre is a 2-mana green-blue 3/2. So far, I feel like the multicolors have been a bit weird on their like theming. Like, they haven't really matched what we've seen previously in the colors. Like, I don't remember seeing ogres in green or blue. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there was like a green ogre. I could see that. Warcaster Ogre is a 2-mana 3/2 ogre. Okay. For 2 generic, a green, and a blue, creatures you control get +2/+2 until end of turn. This is really strong. This is like, this is probably too strong. But like, I'm gonna allow it. It's really cool and good and solid. It's clean, even though it's probably too good. What does it mean to truly bleed? There is no transition. A lifetime of flesh without pause. Oracle on Vec. I feel like the AI likes making Oracle on Vec cards, I feel like. I should probably figure out who that is, or what that is. Nasdar of the Mines is a 4-mana, black and red, 4/4, legendary enchantment, creature, vampire, maybe something else, but whatever. We've talked about this before. We're allowing cutoff text in the type line because there's not enough space. So, at the beginning of your upkeep, you may have target opponent lose 1 life. Okay. For generic red and black, target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. I'm going to keep it. This card's solid. It's not like all of my legendary enchantment creatures that I've wanted to reroll to add the space have been good enough on the first roll, and I'm just like, all right, you're in. You made it on a technicality. Typo. He wields power of 1,000 minds, then devours it in an ecstatic moment. Cool. Thesaurus? Thesaurus of Wit's Rage and Heart? Oh, but the cost is cut off. So I have allowed the cost to be partially cut off because I could confirm that we weren't missing any cost, because we input all these costs ourselves. So I could find out what the actual cost of this card is supposed to be. But if you used this card at the table, like, you, the player, would need a cheat sheet to remember, like, what the, like, you'd have to remember the real cost, right? And I don't want to put that on anybody. That's not the point of this. This is going to get rerolled. Haha! This time, you get rerolled on a technicality. I am very into this, though. Legendary enchantment creature, dragon, Thesaurus of Wit's Rage and Heart is very funny. This is like a 5-mana, 5/4 dragon with flying. If you spend 2 generic, a blue, and a black, it's probably just a black, right? Yeah, it's probably 3 blue and black. Create a 1/1 blue dragon creature token with flying. Great. For 2 generic blue and black, the next time a source of your choice would deal damage to you this turn, prevent that damage. So it's like that other thing, but it costs 4 instead of a single blue. So maybe actually fair. This card's like actually solid. I would keep this card if it wasn't for its cutoff mana cost, which is a real shame. Oh well. Sorry. The finest of food tastes better after the war is over. Cons of Tarkir. Dang it. Did we end up re-rolling the other... I've seen a card called Cons of Tarkir before, and I was always like, I can't have a card called Cons of Tarkir. Then again, a legendary enchantment creature, core, probably soldier. It's kind of interesting. It's like a legendary band of soldiers. Alright. For 5 mana, Cons of Tarkir is a 5 mana blue and black 5/5 legendary enchantment creature, core S. Most likely soldier. I guess it technically could be shaman or spirit or something, so I should probably not allow that on the technicality of it being cut off too much to be legible, but let's at least see what the card says first. It has flash. Okay, a 5 mana 5/5 with flash is already pretty good. For blue and black and sacrifice Cons of Tarkir. Okay, cool. You can only do it once. That's fun. Return Defiant Sire from your graveyard to your hand. Activate only during your upkeep. Okay, so there's something very funny about the idea of this card specifically calling it another card. I believe technically in the rules of Magic it would have to say return a card named Defiant Sire from your graveyard to your hand. Either way, that card doesn't like exist, so it's kind of whatever, but yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna reroll this anyway, so I feel good about that. Huzzah, but yeah. This is a weapon made for honorable purposes. The soldiers who fight for Tarkir will never fight for gold or gore. Azamet, Zenithar Guildmaid. Alright, let's see what else we can do. Ileana, that's a cool name. World Render. Okay. Is a 5 mana, blue and black, 5/5 legendary enchantment creature Minotaur. Okay, I'm into that. That's cool. Yeah, alright. When Ileana World Render enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 other target creature you control. It's important to notice that. When Ileana leaves the battlefield, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. Huh. Okay. So when it enters the battlefield, you may choose to exile a creature that you control, or not. So it's not like a downside situation, which is good, because it's otherwise a 5/5 anyway. Can you turn it into an upside, though? Potentially, right? You get extra ATBs, triggers, enter the battlefield effects, but it doesn't happen until Ileana leaves. I guess if you had some kind of like... If Ileana enters the battlefield, and then exiles something, and then you exiled, like, you flickered Ileana, you could have just exiled the other thing. That's silly. That's silly. Yeah. Yeah, Raylux in the chat is saying it would be really good with Flash. That was my first thought too, right? If this had Flash, cool, you could save somebody from being killed, and then when Ileana dies, they'd come back. It's sort of like postpone. It turns out like the death into sort of a timeout instead, which would be kind of interesting. I really was hoping this card would be cool, because I'd like to see like a legendary Minotaur in multicolor. That'd be fun. There's a decent number of Minotaurs in the set, I feel like. I'm honestly, I have such a hard time keeping track of what cards actually ended up in this set and what's not. That's why the like review videos are so nice, to actually like get a sense of what is going on after all the rerolls. Oh well, we'll try this one again. I think it's just like if you just do it, it's just a 5-mana 5/5 vanilla. Like, no, we can do better than that. Her spell becomes a spectral simulacrum containing no real substance. You're not wrong about that. Kyra Silvereye is a 5-mana blue and black 3/5 legendary enchantment creature god. Ah, the perfect length. Just only use gods for those. It's almost like it was done intentionally or something. They have flying, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, draw a card. This card's super clean. Super clean spell. Nice. Very, very good. She had her fated partner in mind as she prayed for a victory. Aw. This card's really good. Kyra Silvereye, a legendary enchantment creature god. You seem like an important god. We've seen a bunch of gods that just felt like nobodies, but you seem interesting. I like you. Alright, let's move on. Wingmare is a 3-mana 2/2 black and red creature beast with flying. For generic and black, Wingmare gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Okay, so it's got fire breathing, but you can pay it 2 at a time. A benefit of this is that it doesn't cost 2 colored mana like normal fire breathing does. Instead, it is 1 generic and 1 colored, which can be potentially useful. I think this card's solid. It's like, it's really good, I think, because it's such a low to the ground version of this effect. Usually this kind of effect I feel like is a bit more expensive. But the numbers are basically the same. I'm into it. I'm into it a lot. In the village of Rustheap, few meteors come near enough to terrify its people. But those that do, they go absolutely wild. What meteors? Is Wingmare like a meteor beast? Because that would be interesting. I'm into like a meteor hitting the thing, and it's like, no, that was actually just like a beast that was plummeting through the atmosphere. That's what I'm reading from this. I could be wrong. That's what this says to me. Skar Ambush. I need to find all the cards that mention Skirk in the set and see if there's a through line. Skar Ambush is a 3-mana green and white instant. Choose one. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Okay. Skar Ambush deals 1 damage to any target. Not very good. When Skar Ambush's Screech hits, it unleashes a new melee attack against each creature an opponent controls. And the flavor text reads like fake rules text is super interesting, right? Because if the AI told us that was the rules text, I'd be like, well, that doesn't mean anything when its Screech hits and unleashes a melee attack. But it's flavor text that doesn't read like flavor text. It reads like fake rules text, which is actually really funny to me. This card's not super exciting, but I think it's probably fine. The fact that it's multicolor makes me always feel like it should be more interesting than just this, but I mean, giving your creatures +1/+1 to end turn is useful. If you need to ping something to death, you'll be happy it has that extra ability. Yeah, sure. I'm okay with it. Burning Tree Enforcer is a 3-mana blue and black core soldier. It's a 2/3. When Burning Tree Enforcer enters the battlefield, draw a card. This is super boring, but it is a core soldier. So, like, I don't know how I feel about this. I think it's pretty fine. It's like, yep, it's drawing you a card, which is nice. It's otherwise, a 2/3 for 3 mana, so not amazing stat line, but it's probably fine. I'm trying to I guess I should probably read the flavor text before I ponder to myself where this blue-black core is from. But I like it. That, like, the point is to be a core soldier, right? A cloud of smoke rises from the crematorium, rousing hungry dragons. I don't know what that's like. alluding to or what it has to do with this card, but there's something interesting about that as like a... That feels like a story beat that makes like it would fit. Yeah, I think this is solid. Nemesis of the Ogre clans. Okay, Ogre. Cool. Nemesis of the Ogre clans. Wait, but you are... Is this like an ogre that betrayed the Ogre clans? I don't... Let me read the card before I start judging it. Nemesis of the Ogre clans is a 5-mana, green and red, 7/7 legendary enchantment creature ogre. Nemesis of the Ogre clans enters the battlefield with 2 -1/-1 counters on it. Whenever Nemesis of the Ogre clans attacks, remove a -1/-1 counter from it at the end of combat. This card is so cool! Oh, this is such a good, like, design. Oh, that's right. I mean, it's no different than, like, it gains a 1/1 every time, except for it caps out at 2. Are there cards in Magic that actually work this way? Because this is such a clean design that real Magic could use. Like, oh yeah, we want it to slowly build up strength, but to a specific limit. I love, this is so good. So yeah, it's a 5-mana 7/7, except for it starts as a 5/5, and then becomes a 6/6, and then becomes a 7/7. Great. And like, that's not super exciting, but I kind of love ogres and giants and things like that being vanilla. Like, I like them just being big things. And like, that's it. That's all they do. Like, yeah, this isn't vanilla, but it's basically vanilla, right? I like it. I like this a lot. Ogre Glory will be yours. Hey. Ooh, and now we get to move into our colorless cards. Board of the Gods had cool mana costs. Immerstrom Device is a XXX artifact. The rendering on the artifact looks different than usual. Oh, I'm actually looking at the next one. Yeah, there's something weird about just the way this card rendered. Huh. Anyway, whatever. Artifact. Immerstrom Device enters the battlefield tapped. When Immerstrom Device enters the battlefield, exile target creature. At the beginning of your upkeep, return Immerstrom Device to its owner's hand. Okay, so this doesn't work because it's not using the X, right? My rule for X cards is it has to use the X. But if we just were going to gauge this card as a design, ignoring the fact that for 0 mana you could play this card, this is really cool. It enters, it exiles something. At the beginning of your upkeep, it goes back to your hand so you can play it again. Like, so it's kind of like a buyback effect, except for your opponent has a turn to deal with it so that you don't get to play it again in the future. I think that's actually a really clean design. Like, I really like the style of that. You could definitely use that in some actual custom designs. That little, like, nugget of design sense. In this case, it doesn't work because it doesn't use the X at all, and you could cast it for 0, so you just do it every turn. Anyway, after a world went under, its memories began to leak. We might be spinning this one a while. X cards are notoriously difficult, and this is XXX. Faded Omnisman? Omnisman. Faded Omnisman is an artifact for XXX. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, if it isn't a basic land spell, you may draw X cards. Okay, so basic land spell is not a thing, but let's ignore that. This is a design that is totally legitimate, except for that you would never print it this way, right? At the time of casting, you define what X is. So if you cast this for 3 mana, X would be 1. And then, from then on, X would stay as 1, so whenever an opponent casts a spell, if it isn't a basic land spell, so when an opponent casts a spell, you may draw 1 card. That's pretty cool. If this was real Magic, it would say something like, it enters the battlefield with X counters on it of some variety. They'd make up some kind of counter, and then you would draw, you know, a card per counter, right? Something like that. Because you need some way of tracking what X is on future turns. But if we ignore the fact that that is how Magic would actually function, this card does actually function, right? X is defined. X does not stop being defined between turns or anything. You just would need to note what X is. And like, yeah, that's the other way that Magic might do it. Magic sometimes uses the term note. So like, note that it is X is 3. And then that just so that you remember. And it's like, it's no different than you just having to remember, but that's the way Magic gets away with it in its terminology. The other question becomes, is this too broken? For 3 mana, you draw a card every time your opponent plays a card. That's pretty good. For 6 mana, you draw 2 cards. I think I'm going to allow this. Honestly, I think I'm going to allow it. Like, I like effects being in colorless that let people who can't otherwise... Like, some cards are so busted in the game. If you make similarly strong cards in colorless, it feels less bad, because then anyone has access to it. I don't know, I think it's cool. My lands have power to shield you from disaster, but their fragile beauty will fail before their will to live. Skyva, Duradin Diviner. Mirror of Erised. Wait, is that Desire? Yeah, that's just the... Okay. I wonder if that was originally from Harry Potter, or if they, like, stole it from something else. Like the Philosopher's Stone's obviously not originally from Harry Potter. I've only ever heard of Mirror of Erised as from Harry Potter, though, so I don't know. Anyway, Mirror of Erised is a 1-mana artifact equipment. Equipped creature has tap. This creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Equip 1. This card's stupid. This card's really dumb. This is fun, actually. So, like, I like the idea of a mirror, which is an equipment. That's just interesting. Like, you're holding a hand mirror or something. But also, the creature itself has to tap to give itself +1/+1 until end of turn. Okay, there's some use cases to that, because you could block... You know, declare blockers, then tap, blah, blah, blah. But you're only ever going to get +1/+1 from this, right? Unless you had some infinite, you know, untapped combo. But there's probably better things you could do with an infinite untapped combo. So if you're just going to get +1/+1, just have it be +1/+1. Like, why have it be this tap shenanigans? It's so silly. I think of you as much as I think of my own reflection. There is nothing so interesting. Chandra, Mirror Traveler. I do like the idea of a Mirror Traveler. That's really fun. Although that was quite the statement. Oh, this one's complicated. Talus Monument is a 1-mana... Is Talus Monument a real card? That sounds so familiar. Talus Monument is a 1-mana artifact. Tap to add white or blue. Okay. For a generic, a blue, a black, and a red, so 4 mana total, and tap, creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. And gain flying. Oh, okay, that's something. Dang. This is a complicated card, though. If you're in white and blue, this is a mana rock. A pretty good one, too. It's a 1-cost mana rock, and it's pretty good. If you're in blue, black, and red... Sorry, white. You can give all your things flying and +1/+0. Okay, I'm gonna allow it. I think it's fine. It's just weird. The great fortress of Talus sits high upon the mountain, a testament to the power of both wizards and magic. Sure, why not? Great Bow of Jaya is a 5-mana legendary artifact. Oh. Okay, apparently legendary artifact is also a thing that I didn't add a space to. Alright, whatever. Great Bow of Jaya is a 5-mana legendary artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +5/+0 and has protection from each of the colors. Okay, I don't know how the correct way of wording that is, but, like, sure, I know what you mean. You're not wrong, even though it's not the way you'd say that. Huh. For 5 mana to cast and equip 5, I didn't say that, but for 5 mana to equip, is that worth it? +5/+0, not worth it. But protection from every color? I mean, that's kind of cool. And the fact that this is a colorless artifact means they won't, like, unattach itself or anything. I can't properly judge if this is strong enough, so I'm going to allow it. Once again, my typos are making it into the final set. Not a piece of precious jade to Jaya, but an entire plaza's worth of shadow glass. Priest of Kor is a 3 mana artifact creature vampire. Okay. It's a 2/2 with lifelink. As Priest of Kor enters the battlefield, you may pay white. If you do, draw a card. Okay. Yeah, so this is a 4 mana 2/2 lifelink draw a card. Or a 3 mana 2/2 lifelink. Okay. Yeah, solid. I need to see what the lore says on this. What's the flavor text on this, though? Let the beasts run. If they've brought something to pass, then let them have it. Naron Sandalar, core leader. So, I'm so interested in how this works. This is an artifact creature, which is a priest of Kor. That might just be a title, though. That might be, like, the fun thing about names is that you could have, like, the, like, vampire slayer best person in the world be called, like, the priest of vampires, and it's, like, an ironic title. Like, you could do that if you wanted to. So, like, you can't read too much into the name here, but I do, like, I am interested in unpacking the concept of this being, like, a priest to Kor, which was created by somebody because it's an artifact creature, but also is not reminiscent enough of Kor to count as Kor, but it is reminiscent enough of vampires to count as vampires. What does that mean? Was it a Kor that turned into a vampire, but, like, that process made it into an artifact somehow? That's possible, right? Because there's some... Generally, you lose your original typing when you become a vampire, right? Like, you're not a Kor vampire, you just were a Kor and now a vampire. And since becoming a vampire is a process, maybe that process made you an artifact, right? Like we saw in Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, cyborgs count as artifact creatures most of the time. They don't have to be fully artificial. Anyway. Weird. Lightning Cestus is a 2 mana artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has vigilance, equipped 2. That is one of those cards that's probably one of those, like, oh yeah, it's just kind of not a great equipment, but it works if you need it and it's fine. I like it. I don't know what the going rate for these effects are. There's probably a card that does the exact same thing for different costs. That's fine. You know, this is a nice little common equipment. If you have any cards that care about equipping equipments, it's not a terrible cost. It's 4 mana total, 2 mana repeatable. Yeah, it's fine. In some stories, the creature's voice was replaced by lightning, and its weapon became the sky. Ornament of Turmoil is a 1 mana artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has protection from artifacts, equipped 2. I like it. I don't know how much protection from artifacts is going to matter. There's very few artifact creatures. Most things are, like, not going to be doing... I don't think artifacts are doing damage very much, but whatever. It's a cool effect. I like it. It's not too bad. Yeah. Some believe it is cursed. It speaks only to them. Oh, thank you, Realx the Realx. Yes, if it has protection from artifacts, then it can't be equipped. I always forget that rule. That's so silly. If something gives protection from itself, then it is protected from the thing. Yeah. Yeah, I would have missed that. Thank you, Relax the Relax. That's... Alright, we'll roll it again. That's fine. It wasn't a very interesting card anyway. Resplendent Banner is a 1-mana artifact. For 2 and tap, draw a card, then discard a card. Clean. I don't know if that's good, but I always undervalue this kind of effect, and it's repeatable. Cool. I'm into it. It's great. As they unfurl their banners, the Archons feel the elves' dread. The eagles hover and swoop. The thunders and storms shake the land. The very earth sings in distress. Whoo! Alright. I'm into it. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that is the end of our colorless artifacts. And we are moving into another cycle of everyone's favorite, the Broken Snowlands. Hello! What do we have here? Igneous Gorge, Snowland. It has reminder text, even though it is not a plains or an island, for add white or blue, and then Igneous Gorge enters the battlefield tapped. This, if this just said, like, plains and island, this is just a real card, right? Like, that's just a real effect that some things have. I'm pretty sure that's just a normal, that's just a thing. We want to come up with, like, a new, interesting, I really want to come up with either, like, a new, interesting cycle for lands, or just, like, a couple of one-off interesting ones. There are 3 snowlands here. Again, I haven't mentioned this in this video, so it's worth repeating. There are 3 lands in, other than basic lands, in Born of the Gods. I have added snow in front of them because I want to see snowlands in Lords of the Rime. So, once only the immolating sands of Naya scorching plains could turn stone to ash, now the waters of Igneous Gorge must be made to kneel. Alright. We can do better. Okay. The Cloud is another snowland. The next card you draw will be a snowland. So, if this was in, like, Alchemy, you could do this effect, right? Where it's like, your next time you draw a card, search your deck for a snowland and draw that one, right? Which doesn't really function because there's a whole, like, fail to find situation in real Magic, so you really couldn't do that, but I kind of like that as a concept. Like, obviously, since we know that lands like this need to have a downside if they have multiple colors to be balanced around existing lands, you probably couldn't write this. But I kind of like the idea of a land that says, like... Also, it doesn't say when it enters the battlefield, but, like, we can imagine a land that says, when the Cloud enters the battlefield, the next time you would draw, you may choose to search your deck for a basic land instead, or something, or something like that, or a snow land instead, right? That's kind of cool. That's a cool design for a non-basic land. And that's what I'm really interested in here, because, like, it's never been good. It's never landed successfully, but I'm interested in the potential of getting the neurons firing and coming up with your own custom thing if nothing actually happens. Last time, for Gods of Winter, we didn't. I threw it to the comments to see if anybody wanted to give any suggestions about what would be a reasonable stuff. And there was some interesting comment about how, like, you have to consider how powerful Black Lotus is, and so any land that produces a lot of mana at once is a similar effect and needs to be taken into account. And that was a really good point. It's a great measuring stick for if something's too powerful. And then someone else was just like, just use the basic snowlands. So I did make basic snowlands for Gods of Winter, actually. If you haven't checked out the Tabletop Sim mod, there are basic snowlands in that mod that have not otherwise been seen. They are, of course, just basic snow lands, but they have AI-generated art and AI-generated flavor text. So check those out if you haven't. Anyway, I think there's something interesting about like a land that says like you can search your deck for another land in place of your next draw step. That is an interesting concept to help you continue to find things. It sounds pretty strong, honestly. So you'd probably make it only one color and maybe still like tap or something. I don't know. Either way, the dwarves went through hell to make these mountains. King Griold of the Bauduvians. Now, there are 3 cards here to be made. I don't know if any of them will happen. What's this one say? Valoran Pass Snowland. Valoran Pass as an ability word. When Valoran Pass enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token with vigilance. It taps to add white. Cool. This is just okay. Yeah. This is a non-basic that is a plains that doesn't count as a plains, which is sometimes a drawback. That ETB gives you a white soldier creature token with vigilance. Okay. Yeah. That's a functional land that, maybe it's too strong, but I don't care. It's a functional land. I'm into it. It does not help us do any fixing, but cool. If this was going to be a cycle, right? If you made one of these for every color, what would they all make, right? A 1/1 white human creature token. You could have that just be in every color. That would be fine. That's probably wouldn't be a huge deal, but one color would like it more than others. Would you be able to do something with this where maybe like the red one is like a 1/1 with haste and it's like a red like goblin warrior or something, and then like I think that's probably the way you'd want to do it. If you were going to turn this into a cycle, you would change it to a 1/1 the color that it's producing, and then it'd be a different creature type, and then it would have a different keyword. So vigilance for white, trample, which would be irrelevant, so it'd probably be the weakest one unless you could buff it, but trample for green, haste for red. I would say like menace for black, because menace originally was like fear until they wanted to make it more generic than that. Yeah, probably menace for black. I guess blue is like flying, which I don't know. Anyway, that's cool. That's cool enough to just like keep and move on to the next one, even if I have no idea if the card's actually going to make it into the set or not, because these snowlands are so hard to do. Tahngarth held the pass in her hand, then took it and left with it, guiding her champions with her visions. What does it mean to truly follow your king? Anima of Valka. Wahara Mountain is a snowland with reminder text, once again, of add a blue or a white. Wahara Mountain doesn't untap during your untap step if you control a mountain and have no other mountains on the battlefield. If you only have one mountain? Is that what it's saying? Okay, I do actually want to talk about this for it. I'm kind of interested in this line for a way of making a custom non-basic land cycle. The idea of saying, like, this land produces, let's say, white and blue, okay? But it doesn't untap if you control an island. And then you have like another one in the cycle that's like, this one produces blue and black, but doesn't untap if you have a swamp or something. So it's like, this will let you splash for a color, but only if you are splashing via non-basics, right? Not if you're splashing via basic lands. And that could be kind of an interesting idea. You can be like predominantly one color with a little bit of another, right? Splashing another color. That could be a cool design. That would probably, I think that's my pitch so far of like an interesting cycle that you could make. The doesn't untap feels like a kind of a weird design step. But, something like that. This exact design here that we're seeing, the, like, make white, make blue, and don't untap if you have a mountain, doesn't make sense. It just, like, who cares about that? But then also the if you control a mountain and have no other mountains. Like, I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but whatever. Either way, I think this is actually a really good starting point for a custom design, so that's really cool. Wahara has hidden strength in advantage, only discernible by the ancient shaman poets of Kor. Avalon Western Hero is a snowland mountain village. I am interested in the idea of village as a subtype for lands. That's a fun idea. And then you can have mountain village and island village and forest village. That's cute. That's very cute. I don't know what it would mean, but it's cute. As Avalon Western Hero enters the battlefield, you may put a food or an adventure counter on it. That doesn't mean anything. This does remind me that there was a number of cards that cared about gates and a number of cards that cared about... I think there was like one card that cared about having a bridge. And I was like, that's a cool idea for a land type. I don't think I'm going to like tell the AI to make me a bridge card, but I could. I could do that if I wanted to. A dragonfly saw the Avalon, quivering with the thirst to begin his grand adventure. Then the glint of sun off of steel. Let's try that one again. So the other two, again, aren't actually functional cards, but I think they're interesting seeds that you could do if you wanted to make your own cycle, so that's why I'm keeping those ones. Home of the Warrior is a snowland. That's a great name for a land. Reminder text. Home of the Warrior, bar, create a 1/1 white warrior creature token for each creature you control. Tap, add colorless. Okay, so lands that add colorless are interesting because you don't have to worry about the whole, like, making a cycle thing. Maybe that's what all these should be, honestly, right? Like, if we actually review what we've seen, like, okay, Valorant Pass, when it enters, create a 1/1 white human soldier token with vigilance and tap, add colorless. Then you don't have to worry about it being a cycle, and you can just do that. That's probably fine. And, you know, everyone uses creature. It's not a big deal. The Wahara Mountain one, not so much. I think this one actually works really well as a cycle, design-wise, not actually functionally, because it lets you do a multicolor thing with a drawback. Cool. And I don't think we've seen a multicolor in that way, where it's like, I want to be this color. I guess we've seen it in the, like, it produces this color, but it produces an off color if you, like, take damage or something. So there is that, but I really like the potential of produces a main color, produces an off color, as long as you don't have other ways of producing that off color, which makes it only work in a deck where you're specifically splashing the off color and you want to have less sources that produce it or something, which I think is really, really interesting. Here, yeah, okay, so we're back to another colorless, and yeah, same sort of idea, right? Like, this doesn't say when it enters the battlefield. This is all reminder text. It means absolutely nothing, but you could use it as a jumping off point to say something like, when it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white warrior creature token for each creature you control. Which, of course, is very scary. Way more powerful than the other one that we saw. Unless you have none, in which case the other one's stronger. And they have vigilance. Anyway. I don't think there's really an interesting thing to jump off of there. Unless there's a different trigger, right? Home of the Warrior as a, like, ability word could mean something like, you know, when you use this mana, when you use mana produced by Home of the Warrior to cast a spell with mana value greater than 4, create a 1/1 white warrior creature token for each creature you control. Or something, right? Like, you could come up with your own trigger for that and come up with some really interesting card designs. I'm not here to judge balance. I don't know what actually would be a good card, but that's kind of cool. Like, there's something you can riff off of it. Let's get another roll and see what we can do. Okay, once again, it wants to make white and blue. Okay. I think it's just because it's a snowland, and it's like, snow, that's white, right? Southshire Sears is a snowland. Southshire Sears enters the battlefield tapped. Okay, sure. Again, it's just making 2 colors and it enters tapped. Whatever. Many years ago, the Southshire Sears wrote about a people who were neither wizards nor mages, who seemed like gods to some and mere insects to others. The mystery of their origins and their long-lasting secrets remain a mystery. Minstrel song. That seems like a bad song. Battlefield is a snowland mountain. Reminder text, 7.1 days. Okay, we've got to the point where we've broken the AI again. The army has united and raised its banner to face the warlords of the north. Now the free soldiers of Jing are truly united under the banner of General Yang, and the honor of the House of Yang is clear. You got one more shot. One more shot till we're calling it. Duskmantle Square is a snowland. Whenever you cycle your deck, Duskmantle Square deals 1 damage to each opponent and you gain 1 life. Okay, let's talk about this for a moment, right? I don't know if there's precedent in actual Magic for the concept of this is a land that doesn't produce mana. But I'm interested in those, right? Basically, it's like, you can imagine this as an artifact or an enchantment that says whenever you cycle a card, which I know that's not what this says, but go with me here. Duskmantle Square deals 1 damage to each opponent and you gain 1 life, right? You can imagine that. So the idea of sticking that on a land and being like, it's free, but it costs a land drop is super interesting to me. I think what may be more interesting is a land that does produce mana, but it doesn't produce it by tapping, right? Where it's like, when a creature enters the battlefield under your control, gain a mana of your choice of color, of like 1 mana of any color, maximum once, like trigger this once per turn or something, right? That would be weird and interesting as a design for a land. And I think we could see more lands like that. That would be cool if we saw more lands that do produce mana, but they produce it not by tapping. And then you'd still want to have something like once per land, because otherwise you're going to end up like with some stupid things. Anyway, this conversation is spinning off into interesting discussion space, but not necessarily focused on what we're doing here. So I think I'm going to call it. Yeah, I think I will. That's the last card of the set. It is. I guess we could. You know, let's get one more. Let's get more land, because that didn't actually function or anything. Punished for it. Thorn Citadel is a snowland mountain. Reminder text 5- a generic mana and a blue mana. Thorn Citadel becomes a 1/1 black horror creature token with with defender until end of turn. So it's just it's a land. It's a mountain, so it would tap for red, and then you could spend 2 mana to make it into a 1/1. I guess that functions. I don't know. Our job is to provide cover. Theirs is to put it in motion. Jerazon Sniper. Let's call it there for now. I think that will do. So I want to say thank you everyone for joining me for this set and for the last set. If you haven't seen it, the full set list, whatever. All the cards in the set for Gods of Winter are now available if you want to download them as a Tabletop Sim mod. You can find them in the descriptions wow, I'm bailing on this. You can find links to them in the descriptions of any of the Gods of Winter videos. Plus, they are available in the new trailer, as you can see on YouTube now, which was just a fun little thing I threw together. This set, however, although it is now complete, we'll still have to take some time to process it and to do all that fun stuff. So the cards will be available when they're available. But this is the final video of 2022. Be busy for the rest of December, and I probably won't be able to actually get any videos up until the 2nd week of January. So I hope everyone has a lovely year, have a lovely New Year's, all that good stuff. And I just want to say thanks to everyone who's been watching and been commenting, and it really means a lot. Like, I've been on YouTube for a very long time now. You can go back and watch all my old stuff from, like, 15 years ago or more. I don't know. Like, and finding something that's actually resonating with people and actually getting people to, like, you know, comment and show that they like what they're seeing it really means a lot to me after all that time. So I know it's weird and sappy and I don't really know where I'm going with it, but it's just, I want you to be clear that this is very sincere and genuine. It's very cool to have that. So next year I'm going to be focusing on this content as much as I can, right? Obviously I've done a lot of different stuff over the years, and finding something that's resonating with people is really exciting. So this is going to be the channel for this foreseeable future, and I hope people will join me on that journey and really like it, and you know, show it to your friends. You know, hit the subscribe and all that annoying YouTube lingo stuff that you gotta say. Happy holidays, everyone. Happy New Year. I've been DarcyBits, and I will see you next year. Have a good night. I'll see you next time. I could have timed that better, probably. We're still going. Ah, we made it to the top! Woo!